Welcome to Bookscape Epic Reads, where we dive deep into the world of popular books, exploring timeless classics and modern bestsellers alike. Join us for in-depth reviews, insightful discussions, reflections. Let roll. In the tapestry of life, some threads seem too ordinary to matter. Louisa Clark, with her bumblebee-striped tights and brightly colored cardigans, seemed one of those threads, cheerful, quirky, but bound to a small, repetitive world. She had lived her entire life in a tiny English town, in the shadow of a grand castle that she had never truly looked at. She worked in a cafe, loved her family with unwavering loyalty, and dated a man more in love with his triathlon times than with her heart. For Lou, dreams were luxury, safety was survival. But life, with its sharp edges and unexpected detours, had other plans. When the cafe closed down, Lou was forced to confront her limited prospects. She had no degree, no technical skills, no path, just the pressing need to help support her working-class family. So when the opportunity came to work as a caregiver to a disabled man, she took it, hesitantly. It paid better than most options, and she figured it would be temporary. What she didn't anticipate was Will Traynor, a man whose existence had once defied gravity. Will had been a master of the universe in every sense. He had worked in mergers and acquisitions, traveled from New York to Tokyo, skied the Alps, scuba dived the Great Barrier Reef, and lived with the reckless assurance of someone who believed the world was his to command. But in one random, devastating moment, that world collapsed. Struck by a motorcycle on a rain-slicked London street, Will became a C5, C6 quadriplegic, paralyzed from the chest down. Now, 2 years after the accident, Will was trapped, not only in his body, but in the memory of who he used to be. He lived in a converted annex of his parents' countryside estate, enduring a life where even breathing was a struggle, where infection lurked around every corner, and every moment reminded him of what he had lost. He was angry, sarcastic, and emotionally armored. He had made one failed suicide attempt. Now he had set a date to legally end his life in Switzerland, at Dignitas. Lou entered this world like a bolt of unexpected color. At first, they clashed. He was curt and cold. She was nervous and overly cheerful. But over time, Will began to see something in her, a raw kindness, a sharp mind, and a fearlessness she didn't even recognize in herself. He challenged her, mocked her, questioned her, and slowly she rose to the challenge. Their conversations, often playful, sometimes profound, became the center of their days, and Lou, once content to never leave her town, began to change. She learned about spinal cord injuries, about the daily indignities and quiet humiliations Will endured. She witnessed his pain, and then one day she learned his secret, that in 6 months he would end his life, that he had made a pact with his parents. He would wait, and if he still wanted it after 6 months, they would help him go. Lou's world tilted. What began as a job became a mission. She would fill Will's remaining days with so much joy, so much beauty, that he would choose life. She planned elaborate outings, a trip to the races, a visit to a concert hall, a birthday celebration complete with a private garden screening. Each event brought Will moments of joy, glimpses of the man he used to be. But it was more than the events. It was her presence, her voice, her refusal to give up, and love blossomed. Not in sudden passion, but in shared moments, sarcastic banter, unspoken glances, and late-night talks. Will came to care deeply for Lou, perhaps more than he ever expected, and Lou, against every instinct to stay guarded, fell deeply in love. Not with his past, not out of pity, but with the man before her, brilliant, broken, and utterly human. But Will had made up his mind, and Lou, in all her efforts, could not change what mattered most to him: choice. Will's condition meant relentless suffering. He lived with infections, spasms, sores, and chronic pain. Even joy came at a cost. He could not experience it without enduring fatigue and risk. His life had become one of limitations, not freedom. He told Lou, in one of the novel's most aching moments, that she had given him back a piece of himself. But he still could not face decades in that chair. He had always lived fully, with autonomy and agency. Without that, he was not himself. The trip to Mauritius was their last chance. Lou and Will shared a paradise of color and warmth. She finally told him she loved him. She pleaded with him to stay, but he held her hands gently and told her the truth. He loved her too much to trap her in his diminished world. He had made his choice, and all he asked was for her to be with him at the end. In a sterile clinic in Switzerland, surrounded by quiet dignity and tears unshed, Lou kissed him goodbye. She watched the man she loved drift into sleep, not in agony, but in peace. And when he was gone, the silence was deafening, but Will had left her something more than memories. He left her the tools to build a life, a financial gift, but more importantly, a letter. In it he urged her to live boldly, to travel, to learn, to explore the world the way he no longer could, to not be afraid of more. Louisa, who once feared, even stepping outside her comfort zone, found herself standing in a Parisian cafe, reading that letter, feeling his presence in the streets, the wine, the sky. Her grief remained, but beneath it, a seed of courage took root. Me Before You is not just a story about love. It is a meditation on freedom, dignity, pain, and the limits of what one person can give to another. It raises searing ethical questions. Can we accept a loved one's desire to die? Is love enough to heal a soul? What does it mean to truly live? Jojo Moyes does not give easy answers. Instead, she gives us flawed, beautiful, real people. Will, who chooses death not out of despair, but defiance. Lou, who chooses life with trembling hands and an open heart. And in their intersection, we find not only romance, but a mirror. It is a story of impossible choices, radiant moments, and the enduring truth that love, though it may not conquer all, can awaken us to everything we are capable of becoming. Me Before You leaves us with questions that ache and linger, but it also leaves us with hope that in grief there is growth, that in endings there are beginnings, and that sometimes the deepest act of love is letting someone go, so that both may learn to fly. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe.